Gotta get going. Last thing, I never figure out which way you're getting on. Here, I need to set this down. Blast it. Maybe some of that time. Hello. If I got this thing up and running, yeah, new location inside Mike's house again, kind of hiding a little bit, just in case he comes upstairs. I don't know if I lost him or not, but hopefully I did. Anyways, this week's review. Dr. Phibes rises again. To be honest, this is one of the extremely rare occasions where the sequel is actually as good, if not better, than the original film. By large, this is a better film. I mean, I'm still very much okay with the first one, but the second one just steals the show completely. The basic plot of this one is that Vincent Price, as Phibes once again, is headed towards Egypt to try and resurrect his wife. While heading that way, he finds that some of the stuff that he needed is stolen, steals it back while also killing someone else. Poor Dodson gets stinking head. This is not the guy that took it from him, technically speaking. And then proceeds to head towards Egypt with the other guy not far behind him. Phibes then gets back to Egypt and actually has apparently a base already pre-made in case something like this was to happen. After a bit of redecorating, he sets about trying to keep the others away from his plans, and also accidentally loses his wife for a while and has to go attack them once more to try and get her back. The very end of the film I will not ruin this time, however, but I will say that it is a very close last minute who's going to win this sort of situation, because it could end up that neither side really wins, nor neither side really loses either. The characters this time, the characters seem a little smaller in number this time. I've also mentioned that Phibes using Egyptian magic. The evil of ancient Egypt! But, yeah, it seems vaguely familiar that a man would be using the magic of Egypt to resurrect a loved one. Yeah, about that. Also, you were mentioning something about the villain?
Yeah, the main enemy, the villain of the thing, Beiderbecke. He was searching for the elixir of life again, since he was running out, which sort of sounds similar to a character in Golden Sun, the first one.
So other than Beiderbecke and Phibes, Vulneria is back, as we dubbed her the nameless assistant last time. He actually does call her by name quite a bit in this film compared to the last one. To which she has become a more developed character as well, because it was hinted that there's something not quite right with her, that you would almost suggest that maybe she's a robot like the human-sized band that he had. Turns out there's something a little more magic in nature about her, as she suddenly reappears in this magical vortex and comes back out to help Phibes once more, and actually proceeds to go back into yet another vortex and disappears at the very end of the movie. So, whatever she is, she's apparently magical in nature, which kind of goes along with the Ten Commandment curses from last time. Not to mention the whole Egyptian magic evil thing going on with this one, because the Rejuvenating Magical River. As much tech as they try to throw in, they throw in equal amounts of magical mysticism with these films. Which is actually a nice little mix, because while Phibes is dealing with his enemies with his current elaborate tech, he's at the same time learning and using magical things to try and help him in his quest to do stuff and try and reach his end goals. Other than that, the characters that obviously get knocked off in this film are kind of flatline and very linear. We don't have too many side characters, but then again, we're also not delving into just staying in one spot, aka London, England, unlike the last film. Instead, we're actually going off into Egypt, which has a lot of the traveling stuff and people going places, and lots of little exploration spots.
And there's not a number of people that he has to kill.
Yeah, it's not as large of a list of people that he has to knock off this time either. It's, what, maybe 4 or 5 guys?
And like the other one, the other movie.
So there's a much smaller list, which also means more development time for the actual characters who are going to be characters. This also is a very different film compared to the last one, because unlike the last one, where you kind of got the gist of what's going on but didn't actually see it happen, this movie really brutally lets you see what happens to these guys and lets you watch them get all fucked up. The production values of this movie, I would almost assume they were the same compared to the last one, but yet there seems to be a lot more going on. There's a lot more camera movement, there's a lot more shots, there's a heck of a lot more dialogue for Phibes himself, and there seems to just be a lot more attention drawn into the details themselves, and overall this actually helps to improve your likability to this movie. It makes it look like a much prettier, much more thought out movie than the last one. So they have changed enough, but kept it the same at the same time, so you get more development with your characters, but also you get to see them in shinier spots with a lot better picture and quality to it, and also the music, a little more late 70s music, but by far still not horrible in any way. It's still pretty good music, just a little less 60-ish singing to it, so that kind of helps it a little bit in my book, at least. So yeah, it's generally conceived that this is a prettier looking movie, and to be quite honest, it's all around a better movie than the first one, although the first one on its own is still a pretty good one. But other than that, we're almost covering the same ground. I will, though, mention that there's a few motifs that are returned. In particular, the end credits, rolling with Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Although I will add that this time, we get Vincent Price singing. Which in of itself is kind of amusing. It's nice to actually hear him go with the musical motif to the point that he actually helps sing along. But sadly, this is where the series ends. There were numerous, and I repeat, numerous attempts to try to make a third Dr. Phibes movie. Even to the point that back in the 80s, they actually tried to get George A. Romero to direct. And they were planning to have a whole huge, massive group of popular actors at the time to join in on this thing and make it a big event. But for whatever reason, yet again, it still didn't come to fruition, and it just kind of sat on the shelf. There were also ideas of a Dr. Phibes TV show, which was news to me. Apparently the idea was that Dr. Phibes would travel around the world defeating evil with his plethora of imaginative devices to kill them with. I'm not sure how well that would have done, but it's an interesting thought. It would have been nice to see it, but I highly doubt Vincent Price was that readily available all the time either, so they probably would have had to find someone else, and that might have ruined it right there too. All in all, what we got so far is a very good series of 2 films. The sequel actually outshining the original in a couple of different ways, but overall it is still a great series to watch. Vincent Price is having absolute fun the entire time, and always wanted to make a sequel. Sadly, that never happened. But there are still rumors of yet another attempt to either sequelize or possibly remake and restart fresh, and then finally get those sequels that we originally wanted out of the series. To which, if they do remake, hopefully it's not a bad remake. Like, I would not want Lady Gaga playing during Dr. Phibes. I wouldn't want Lady Gaga. I probably wouldn't want anything any earlier than the 70s played in the background. So Pink Floyd would improve it. Led Zeppelin, maybe. I think Alice Cooper was even doing music back in the 70s too, wasn't he?
I don't really know that much about it.
But still, some decent 70s music, since these originally were made in the 70s, would be nice to punch it up with a little bit. I would not go into, 80s territory with music with Dr. Phibes, at least not until we actually officially update him into the 80s. Actually, that would be actually a kind of nice motif to do, is every sequel after the first 2, if they remake the first 2, advance about 10 years into the future and see what's happening with him now.
Wouldn't really make sense for it to suddenly be 20 or 30 years into the future.
Which is why I suggest gradual steps instead of just jumping to present day. Let's stay in the 70s and gradually jump from decade to decade. That way we slowly build up into a more present day thing with Dr. Phibes, and then maybe make that into a TV series. But still, just thoughts, but yeah, it would be nice to see more Dr. Phibes, in one form or another, as long as they don't screw it up. But that's about it for right now. I think that kind of covers it.
Yeah, pretty much.
A little shorter review than last time, but to be honest, we're covering the same ground, only that it's a massively improved sequel. So, catch you all later. Dr. Phibes is done. Maybe. Don't think about it. I will also say that the idea of Phibes using Egyptian magic to resurrect